Hey guys, Scott from Real Stick Outdoors. You probably recall the videos of me building this mini camper last year, and thanks to you guys, it's been a great success. Lots of views and lots of really cool questions. And there's some really serious followers who really love the interior of this and how it's different than most of the mini square drop campers. But thanks again, everybody, for hanging out and watching that. But what I'd like to do today is I want to add a solar panel to the front of this. But the challenge is I don't want to leave it there when I'm traveling and I don't have a cover for it, and I'd just soon not have it stolen. So I want to make it portable. I want to be able to hook it on here and put it inside the camper during travel, and I need a way to connect it into the trailer without putting a whole bunch of holes. So here's my ideas. This was my first idea. It was cheap, about $6 worth of parts. So just a standard black steel, black pipe, and a flange. And basically what I was gonna do is drill a hole this size through the camper, mount the flange on the inside, put this as a pass-through, and then have this on the outside that I could have the wires, just shove them out, plug them into the solar panel, and then during travel connect this back up. Pretty cheap option, not too bad, but I gotta tell you, the more I stared at it, the less I actually wanted to screw some more holes in my camper, especially after making it so lovely watertight. But here's what I did remember. When I did the install here, I actually added a plug-in. Now this is for shore power, and I just really don't use the shore power. Like there's no real use for it for me. So what I'm thinking is that I'm going to take the solar panel, connect it up, run it to an actual receptacle, because this has a ground wire on it, which means there's only one direction you could plug it into, which means I could keep them polarized, positive and negative. So on the output of the tail of the solar panel, I'll connect it to a receptacle or a plug-in that has polarized positive and negative. So then when I'm ready to use it, I can plug it into that, and then I'll run the wires from there into my charge controller and then into my load. That's my theory right now. I guess I'll give it a try and see how it works. Okay, here's the entire setup. There's a Renergy 100 watt panel that I bought on Amazon for $110, I think. I'll leave you the link to that. I have two 10-foot extensions that plug into and connect directly to the Renergy's cables for my extension. I have a $20 30 amp charge controller, also off of Amazon. This one is a PMW. There it is there, 30 amps. Now keep in mind, on the output of this, it only allows you 10 amps for your output for your load. So just because it's 30 amps in doesn't mean it's 30 amps out. This one's 10 amps out. And I have a water pump and 2 pieces of aluminum bracket. Water pump? Yep, he said water pump. I don't really need a water pump for this. However, this water pump's dead, and I'm going to cut the cable off because I need this plug. This plug is how I'm going to connect to these so that I can put the solar panel here, or set it off on the side facing the sun this way, or up on the roof, and I'll have enough cable to bring it around and plug directly into this input, which, because it has a ground, will be polarized. So only I will know that that's a 12 volt input and not 120 volts. The aluminum brackets, I think, are gonna be fairly simple. I'm gonna hook one up on there, and then I'm gonna put one on the back through these mounting holes. I just drill a couple holes into this, and then that way I can just set it up and hook it into the bracket, and then that'll be the whole setup. I'll probably put a pinhole in it just so it won't blow away if I'm off fishing or whatever. Okay, my solar panel has 2 mounting holes on it. Well, it actually has 4, but I'm only gonna use the 2 for now. So this is going to be mounted on as flush as possible, no big deal. It's just basically a hanging hook So I've marked where the holes would pass in the centers on both. Flip them over. I've transferred the depth down where I want the center of the hole, and then I've marked them both on the same side. So now I'm just going to drill those out. Now those are drilled out, I just got to go find a short bolt that I can bolt this to the actual solar panel. It has to have a decent sized washer and a decent sized head. Okay, I got the holes drilled out to 3/8. These 3/8 bolts, and they're 1 inch long. So I'll be able to pass them behind. I'm gonna put a washer on there because there is some movement, and this aluminum isn't super thick, so you definitely don't want too small, something that could pull through. Not there's gonna be a lot of pressure on it, but so I'm just gonna mount those two, and then I will connect that up into there's the bowl, line that up in the bowl hole and tighten her up. If you're not familiar with a lock washer with the split in it, make yourself comfortable with it, because these things will keep you from having to find your stuff in the bush after it falls off. So washer, lock washer, nut, and then tighten. Once you snug that down firm, that's not coming off. And if you feel like it is, you can put a dab of hot glue, crazy glue, you can put Loctite, whatever you like on there. But when you have that split lock washer, I've never had them come off. Okay, now you just need a couple open end wrenches. You can try other things, vice grips or whatever, but you'll have troubles getting the space in there, so you need a smaller open end wrench. Get that locked in, tighten them down. Those aren't going anywhere. But like I said, you can put some Loctite on there if you want, but those are not going anywhere with that lock washer and the washer. And this thing is super solid. It's more solid than the actual frame itself, so you don't want to be putting a lot of torsion on that, however you're mounting it. And which one of the reasons why I'm not going to mount it permanently, because I want to have a spot for this that's secure inside that this can hang on and be protected during the travel. So I'm not getting rocks hitting up here, because this is where I want it to sit. And rocks have been hitting up there. I mean, they've been hitting here pretty good too. I got a couple spots up here, somewhere there where the rock has hit. So I've had to patch a little bit, but anyway, so let's get the hanger on. Okay, so next step. I need to hook this up on the top so that I have something to hang. So the big debate is, do I hang it this way so when I grab and hook onto it, I'm not scratching this up, but it'll hold some water, or do I go this way and it won't hold the water, but hanging it will be hanging it onto the edge of the, I think I'm gonna go this route. But so all I did is I evenly spaced out these. I'm gonna mark them, or I marked them, drill some holes. I'm going to use these tiny little tin roof screws. They're super pointy. They got a gasket washer and a tiny head. They don't need to be heavy. They're not holding a lot of weight. So this piece of aluminum weighs nothing. And one thing, I'll be putting a piece of butyl tape behind every hole. And if you're not familiar with the butyl tape, then I think you need to refer back to building this, because this is your favorite friend in the whole world. So butyl tape, and I will be coating behind with a little bit of silicone where this passes through, and I'll put some silicone on this just just an extra security. So the hole itself, because I may tap them. Yeah, actually I may tap them, but this is so skinny that, you know, drilling the hole, a pilot hole first, you just have to be pretty tiny, but I'd like to get some silicone into it first just to make sure, extra safe. And I don't want it too long because I don't want it to go through into the inside. So my walls are only that thick. So you have to be careful. Now, one thing that I will point out, you may think that you want to put this up on there with a level, but I caution you against using a level. Unless you're in a shop and your ground is perfectly level, 100%, don't fall for it. I had the same error when I was building this, setting up this kitchen slide, in fact. I couldn't get it level, and I figured out the trailer was just on a slight tilt. So when I did have it level and I brought it out, it was crooked, so I had to redo it. So use either a measurement from the top, bottom, sides, wherever you need, or put one screw in, center it, and go back and have an eyeball. But don't trust your level, not in the outdoors anyway. Just a pro tip. Okay, test hang. And that's basically how she'll hang. I'm just gonna drill a couple holes to put some safety pins in, just so it doesn't blow off. Yeah, look good. Now, I'll design something for here on a hasp so I can lock it. That way when I go away fishing for the afternoon, people can't help themselves to it. Okay, like I explained before, I have a receptacle here that I'm no longer using for charging. When I'm on the road, I use my generator, and I usually plug it straight into whatever I'm using, like my hot water or whatever. And I'm very, very, very rarely plugged into here except to charge the battery. And now that I have my solar panel, I don't see the need for that. So what I've done is I've taken the solar panel ends. I bought an extension, which I'll leave a YouTube link for, and I took the bare ends and I put them onto an actual receptacle. So now all I have to do to charge this, and by the way, they are polarized, positive and negative. You don't want to mix those up or you will screw up your battery. But because this has an actual spot for a ground, it can only go in one way, which I made the top plug, the wide one, positive, and the bottom one, negative. So it can only go in one way. Once it's plugged in nice and firm, These only have one way they can go because they're two opposites at this end. So I plug this into here, this into here. Then I can just move my plugs out of the way or whatever I'm doing. Now let's go in and have a look on the inside. I just have to take apart my control panel to get at the two main input leads. So these are the two that come from the battery. I'm heating up the soldering iron now. I'm gonna tin the ends. Those will be output to battery on my charge controller. The solar panel, I still have to run the line in because I'm gonna use the connector that's down below this. So I'll have to run two up. And then I can run two more leads from the output into the input of this panel, which controls my lights and my fan. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna get started doing the tinning, and then I'm gonna start grabbing some wire as necessary, and then I'll keep you guys posted as we go along. Hopefully we can get this working. Oh, on a side note, I tested my solar panel and I wasn't thinking it was 21 to 22 volts. I'm in direct sunlight, but it is kind of hazy, but it's hot out today. And I was like, 21 volts. And it totally didn't occur to me. And I'm sure I've mentioned this tons of times before. I'm an electrician and not a carpenter. However, it took me a couple minutes to realize that, of course, it's the VOC, which means there's no draw on the solar panel. So it's like full whatever is going to be capable of. And then once you connect to batteries and it starts to charge, you'll be drawing probably 14 and a half volts, something like that, for charging the battery. So had a moment of panic, and then of course I realized that, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. So anyway, if you do see your solar panel and you're plugged in, you're checking the voltage before you're connected to a load, you're going to see like 21 to 22 volts. So don't panic. That's normal. So if you're doing any of this yourself, I like to fold the line in half so that we got a line in half. So I got double. And then I'm going to tin it. And tinning it means hardening it with solder. So I dip it into the solder paste, which is used for helping adhere your solder to the actual tin. It's a flux. And once that's done, then just heat the wire a little bit, touch the solder to the wire, and that's pretty much it. She's tinned. So now when you're connecting it into the Phoenix connector, like on this charge controller, you can actually make a good purchase. And when it's just braided line, when you squeeze down the Phoenix, it just flattens out and it can loosen and pull out, and you don't want that. So having it hardened, now it's a very, very hard one piece end. Now I can stick that inside the Phoenix connectors in there. Should be good. Okay, just add these battery wires to the battery controller and tighten them good. And now I didn't leave enough, just any bare wires there whatsoever. So there's no need to protect it at that point. So now I'll connect it to the battery. Actually, I might just put that on the wall so it's easier out of the way. I'm going to connect to the battery and then go through some settings because I want to have it set the way I'd like it before I plug it into my solar panel, because I don't want to overcharge or anything like that, because it's very sunny out and my battery is not too dead, but it's fairly charged up. So anyway, I'm going to do that and we'll get right back. Hey, well, I didn't get as far today as I wanted to, but I had a few other things creep up. Plus, I had to rewire the battery line that I had from here to the batteries, to this controller, to my lights. Was pretty lightweight, and it was only, pulling microamps for my LEDs. But I wanted a little bit thicker cable for the charge. So I have pretty thick cable coming in from my solar panels. I have some thicker cables going to my battery, and then I have the same size cables, maybe a little bit bigger than what I had coming out of here into this block, which is all the switches and stuff for my lights. So I'm gonna leave it like that for today, and then I will clean all this up, get the other connector going tomorrow. It's supposed to rain in the next couple hours, so it won't be good for testing the charge of the solar panel anyway. So I'll get this all buttoned up, and then we'll carry on tomorrow, hopefully, or maybe the next day. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of what I have set up and how it's working, starting with the battery. I have a positive and negative. I've extended the lead so I can bring it out here and hook it up to my big battery and then slide the big battery in. But for today and for testing purposes so far, I've just been using this smaller battery, just because I didn't want to explode my my big battery if I did something wrong, or I had a very, very hot sunny day on my test, and now it's sunny. So my lights just came on because I left them on. So my battery's at 12.8 volts. When this is connected, it'll show my voltage here, and it'll show that my battery's there and it's almost full, and that I'm connected to the load. And when I got the load on, it doesn't really make any change, except that the battery level started to drop down. Now, that said, when I connect to the solar panel, I'll show you what happens. Okay, now we're in the inside. You can see here that the solar is now connecting and it's charging into the battery, and it's showing 14.4 volts, which seems to be pretty standard for what I have in. And here's what my setup is. So I'll scroll through them and then we'll explain them. I have it cut off at 13.8 so that it won't overcharge. I have my battery output cut off for my 2 load at 12.6, so that'll start charging at 12.6, and when my load reaches 11 volts, it will shut off my load. I have it set for always charging whenever it can, and just bumped out here. And B1, the battery is my lead acid battery type. So I can go through those settings a little bit more once I'm in the studio, but that's it. I'm having 14.4 volts. So my battery reached its maximum. I'll have to check and see what it is. It's trying to put out 14.4 volts, but you can see here there's no more flashing from my solar panel, so it's no longer pushing any charge into my battery. So let's just turn this off, disconnect my battery, and see what the voltage level is at. Okay, I have my battery disconnected from my load. I mean, other than it's still connected to that little piece. My cutoff for charging is 13.4 volts. So that charger cut off at 13.4 and stopped charging. Therefore, no overcharged battery. So I'm hoping that'll continue to be a thing. I'm loving it. And the sun is behind the cloud, so I'm getting pretty decent voltage. And one thing that I did when I tested this out on a couple days ago when we had full sun, I had 2 fans running inside. I had my ceiling fan up here, wherever that is, and then I had just a small computer fan running inside the camper all day. And that battery you've seen was at 11.7 volts when I plugged it in. It was at 12.6 volts when I was done, including running both those fans all day. So I was getting a charge, plus being able to use some items. So I have no longer any fears this will do what I need to do, because I have one big, a deep cycle battery, and I can run on that for quite some time as it is. I just need to be able to charge my camera equipment, like my phone, maybe plug in my laptop, but more likely just to recharge my cameras. But anyway, I hope that that makes sense, and we'll go over more inside the shop. Okay, let's have a look at the manual. If you guys don't have one, you can reach out to me and I will send you a digital copy. But you want to make sure you read the safety instructions and look at the technical parameters of your battery, looking at how it's connected. And the one thing I want to talk about specifically is the LCD settings. On the first main setting, you'll see the solar panel, whether it's being charged, your actual battery level, and the load output. On the next one, you'll show the float charge, and that will be specific to the type of battery you have. Mine is at 13.4 volts, and that's the best voltage to maintain your battery forever. The under voltage protection is the voltage you want your load to cut off at, so you're protecting your battery so it doesn't go any further down. And then you have a discharge reconnect, which is the voltage where it will start allowing you to run your load again after the battery has reached that charge. And then there's the battery type. Now make sure, there's different ones that have different things. Mine says B1, and that's for my lead acid sealed battery, but they're different types. You have to make sure that you have the right one. Work mode has 3 modes. Mine is set at 24 hours, so I can draw on a load at any time during 24 hours. You can have it set from dawn to dusk, or you can have it set from any amount of hours, anywhere from sunrise or sunset, up to you. Well, that's it in a nutshell. It was actually easier, other than trying to figure out a way to make this connect without having to plug it in and run the wires inside all the time. I didn't want to have to screw with that charge controller. So it worked out well, and I didn't have to drill another hole in my camper, which was bonus. So anyway, working good. Thanks for joining me on this quick how to set up your solar panel. 100 watts. I'll leave the link in my YouTube. And if you found any of this useful or interesting, please think about subscribing. It really helps me out a lot. And until the next one, thanks for hanging out. I'm Scott from Realistic Outdoors.